I'm gonna tell you guys a story real quick. So interesting. Wasn't even planning on talking about this morning until like this is how it works. I roll out of bed and it's like, this is relevant. So I cooked up some tuna last night. I had a really nice yellowfin tuna steak, and it's been sitting in the fridge. I've been looking at that, and it's yeah, we got to get this done because it's not going to last. So tonight's the night. And I cut up some chunks and I put it on my 10-year-old son's Brooks's plate. Cut it up and sit down. We're getting ready to eat, and he's like, "I don't like fish," and it's like, yeah. So tuna is not fish. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Tuna is kind of its own thing. Tuna has it's more comparable to steak than it is to fish, truly, depending on how you cook it. And I'm trying to have this conversation with him, but he's so committed to the "I don't like fish" experience that he can't experience this new opportunity, right? And this is so inevitably we get into a conversation about beliefs and limiting beliefs and things of that nature. So this is just such a beautiful example of a belief. So he clearly had an experience eating a fish, and that was not pleasant. And so he made a belief that says, "I don't like fish. Fish are this way. This doesn't fit for me. It's not good." And now the door's closed to experiencing other possibilities are being open, to the point to where even somebody that's, and we had this conversation, like, this is really crazy because, like, I'm not suggesting you try the tuna to hurt you. You get that, right? Like, this is from a place of taking care of you and nourishing you and helping you experience life to its fullest, not to punish you or torture you. And this child's example of a belief that will have consequences for the rest of your life is just a perfect example of all the beliefs that we have. And so we talked about state of being last week with the triangle. Focus, what we focus on grows, what we focus on we find, what we focus on become. Language, the way we talk about the things. And then physiology, which we just experienced with dancing. That creates our emotional state of being. But at the core of all of it, beneath that are the beliefs that drive the thinking and the language that comes out around a certain event. So his belief on fish is just like some other people. Some people were abused, some women were abused by men, or they observed their mothers being abused by men, and they made a decision, all men are this way, and this has this everlasting result in their life. Some people were bullied in school and they had these bad experiences and they decided people are this way. Some of us grew up with really poor parents that struggled so hard to survive, and then they got robbed, and then they got ripped off, and people stole from them. And then we said the world is this way. And these are beliefs that then drive the way we view everything that occurs in our world. It's just locked in our unconscious, and it influences the way we view. And I use this term references. I don't use it a lot, but I'm going to explain it really quickly. But he has a reference for fish, and his reference is that one experience where he made the decision. And maybe he had two experiences. Maybe he was open-minded and tried a couple times, and he's referring back to that experience and bringing it into now and saying, this is like that, and therefore I'm not going to do it. So we have references. Now, none of us have a reference for a pandemic. It's really interesting. And it's interesting to watch people seek references. Some people will try to compare it to World War II, where people came together. And there's similarities, of course, but it's certainly not like World War II. It's just, but aspects of this are. And then the financial thing, we're trying to reference back to 2008, the Great Depression, all manners of economic crises that have occurred. So we're always seeking references to pull it into now so that we can understand. So is everybody, you give me a thumbs up if you get references. References are the way you link back to where the belief came from, compare it to now, so that I don't have to rethink this thing. So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment, and you should have a pen and pad if you're properly prepared for this meeting. And I'd like you to write down: people are, the world is, and life is. People are, the world is, and life is. And we're going to just spend 2 minutes, and I want you to just go inside and ask yourself the question, what is my belief about people? And answer that question for yourself. People are what? The world is what? Life is what? So just take a few quiet moments and write down your answers to those 3 questions. So we have these choices on ways to view this, and the language that the language part of the triad kind of exposes our beliefs. And if we're really paying attention and listening to someone, we get to experience some of their beliefs through the language that they use. So if I say life's a bitch and then you die, life's a grind, life is dangerous, it's tumultuous, it's hard, life's a battle. That sets the frame for the way I'm going to view literally every day I go to work. What if life's an adventure? What if life is a game? What if life is a box of chocolates and you never know what you're going to get? That's a pretty nice way of looking at it. There's nothing bad about a box of chocolates, and there's different surprises along the way. And you can reframe the way you view life. Same thing about people. People are they innately bad or are they innately good? Like, just start there. Do I generally trust people? Do I generally assume that people want to be good? Or do I generally assume that people are trying to take advantage of me and rip me off? It's a big one. It's going to change everything in the way that you interact with people. Everything. That shift completely will change your life if you begin to believe that people are good and people want good for you and for them. It's an extraordinary mind shift. And then what was the last one? I said the world. The world is and life is. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is step into your groups. I'm going to do a quick breakout room. And when you get into the breakout rooms, I want you to each take 1 minute to talk about your beliefs about life, the world, and people, and share how those could be elevated to give you a better experience in this life. So we're going to create the breakout rooms. Don't panic. Your screen's going to go dark for a little while. I'm going to give you guys a 60-second countdown. You'll pop back into this room, and we'll keep talking. See you in a little bit.
What's going on?
All right, guys. So as we're waiting for everybody to come back into the room, I'd like to see a hand and volunteer to talk about what you learned in the last 5 minutes. Yeah, go ahead, Alex T.
So we had kind of a mixture more towards people, I guess, not being the greatest. Not in a bad way. It's not like we're like people suck, but instead of like people are so beautiful and amazing, it's, people are kind of selfish and people are a little odd. So we had that. And then I think there was only one that really had a great outlook on people in general. Everybody else was kind of, people are all right.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Let me hear from another room. What was, let me see some hands. Who would like to talk about what they learned in the last 5 minutes? Preston, what you got?
I think everybody in our group felt that people in general are very good. We all agree that the world is troubled. There's problems in the world today. But for the most part, even though some of us struggle with life, we still feel like life is a gift. And so we had some really nice feedback.
Really cool. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to offer for your consideration my own experience. The first time I was, I encountered this concept was at a Joe Crisera training event, learning about sales, and it was very new for me to step into that environment. And he said, I want everybody to check their beliefs about human beings. He said, we go into a service call. And we said, what I find in coaching is most everyone has this natural tendency to believe that the customer is against them. The customer is skeptical. The customer is a cheapskate. The customer is wary. The customer is all these things. And he said, what I find to be more true is that the customer is rooting for you. The customer needs you to be successful. They want you to be successful. Success to them means a solved problem. And so they're actually on your side. And it like blew my mind, because I'd really observed this interaction as a opponent of sorts, and it was just like, okay, wait a minute. The customer's rooting for me. That's a very different experience. And you take that into life, and I just test it over and over and over again. And I find so few instances, literally to the degree of almost none, where human beings are purposefully, maliciously trying to hurt someone. We all do things that cause hurt to people, but it's typically not from a malicious place. It's from a place of trying to meet our needs, trying to be heard, trying to be understood. And people are good. People really want you to be successful. They want to be successful. And if jealousy occurs or something, that's not about you. That's about them not being okay with them. But at their core, this human being wants good. And what's beautiful about this is the way you show up to the world is totally different. Instead of closed and guarded and on the defense because I don't trust you, you show up open and anticipating good to come out of the other person. And guess what you get? You get good coming from the other person because your posture and your approach changed. And that openness is so clear to the recipient that you're giving in stepping into the vulnerability of trust that the world around you literally responds in a completely different way. Literally, like your vibe walking into Starbucks, if you ever get to do that again, is completely different when you just know that you're accepted and loved and everybody in this room is on my side. The room will feel different because you brought that into the room. That's the power of what I'm talking about. And it's true with life. It's true with your view of the world. It's true of everything. So I want to do a quick conversation here, but I imagine, can everybody tell me where they were when they heard about September 11th, the planes crashing into the building? Because everybody know exactly that moment when they got that news, they saw it and they learned of this experience, right? Yeah, that was a big one. And guess what? We're in the middle of that right now. September 11th happened this fast. The pandemic is happening over a span of months, and we're literally in the middle of this story. And imagine 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, people are going to ask you the question, what was your experience with the pandemic? You'll have little grandkids and kids that you haven't had yet that are going to ask you, I heard about this crazy coronavirus pandemic. What was that like? Tell me your story. And what's really cool is we're right now in the middle of it, and we get to author our story. You are the main character in your story about coronavirus and your experience of surviving it. And if you reflect back on movies and people that have inspired you, stories that have inspired you, who are those characters? What character are you going to choose to be in the story that you're in the middle of writing right now? Got all the choices in the world. And You got the luxury of time because this virus isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So you can actually be purposeful and thoughtful and think about what's the story going to be that I tell about my experience? What role will I play? I'd like you guys to just take a moment with your notepads. Take 3 minutes, and I want you to write down the word family, community, and team. And consider your family, consider your community, and consider your team when you write your story about how go into the future. 10 years from now, everything's normal. What was the story you told? What's the story you're going to tell about how you showed up and what was your character? So Jake, take 3 minutes, write that down, and we'll debrief. All right. I'll invite you guys after the meeting to just keep working on this. This is important. Have an opportunity to define who we're going to be in this moment and take ownership of that. It's an extraordinary opportunity we have right now. Absolutely extraordinary. I wrote down some notes when I thought of this last night. I thought, tell my grandkids someday. It's like, it was really challenging and it was a confusing time. The people bought all the toilet paper and we never really understood why. We made a lot of mistakes and we did a lot of things right. But the thing I'm most proud of is how our team came together in a really beautiful way. We reinvented this really large business in just a matter of days. And our team continued to heroically serve our community. We did everything we could, and we kept everybody safe. And because our team was so strong and everybody's attitudes were so good, and we didn't have to manage the emotional states of everyone. They just stepped up. Because of that, Sarah and I were operating in a place of abundance, and we were able to reach out and help others who are struggling. The lessons we learned in this experience taught us things we could have never learned if we hadn't been there. I'm sorry for people that were hurt because of the coronavirus, but the value of what we learned in that experience is immeasurable. So I invite you guys to take control of your story in this time, this moment. Make it a good one.